All right, Country Conversations with Cactus Jack. We are in Paducah, Kentucky on a Friday morning at Willie 102 radio station. You might be able to tell from the backdrop. And I am here with a guy that I haven't known just a few years, but boy, we've become good friends, have we not?
You betcha. We're sitting close together.
Yeah, this is Gary Van Meter, and we're all sitting close together because we need to get on Country Conversations and let you hear this guy. He's got some of the coolest stories about some of the country stars and some of the people that he's hanging around with. And I guess we need to get a bio on you. Tell us how this all started. Now, we've done this all on the radio before, but the folks on Country Conversations don't know about you. So what was your first guitar like?
My first guitar had 3 strings on it. A good friend of mine, and we're friends today. We run around together most every weekend. Barbara Little liked my bicycle when I was 14 years old. And she had an old guitar that had 3 strings on it. She taught me how that bicycle for that guitar.
What a trader. She still trades a lot.
She still trades. Yeah, you bet you. Yeah, but anyway, that's how I learned to play. I learned to play that puppy. Okay. Got more strings and put on it. And then I switched over to pedal steel guitar. And
you just wanted more and more. You just couldn't get enough strings. That's what it was, wasn't it?
That's what it was.
How many strings on your pedal steel guitar? About 40?
Well, the first neck's got 10 strings. The second neck's got 10.
Yeah.
And it's got 9 floor pedals, 8 knee levers you move with your knees, and a volume, and 1 bar and 3 picks on one hand.
Makes those 3 strings seem a lot easier these days, doesn't it?
You bet you.
All right, where'd you go from there? You started playing in Joppa, Illinois. We don't mind telling where you're from.
Yeah, I'm from Joppa, Illinois. I went to Joppa High School, Maple Grove Grade School, and I played around here when I was young, different clubs and places, and I started going to Nashville quite a bit. And then I met up with a guy named Bobby G. Rice, and he had a '1 hit you called You Lay So Easy on My Mind, and he was the first Grand Ole Opry star I ever got to play for.
So that was your first trip to the Opry?
We played over in Missouri the first time we played, and I just kept on, and I heard that they needed some steel players in Branson. So I went over to Branson, and I met with Tom Brumley, which played with Buck Owens, all them 21 hits he had. And he told me the ropes, and I started playing in different theaters, and I stayed there 27 years.
27 years in Branson.
You bet. Played with different Grand Ole Opry stars and whoever.
And you toured on the road some, too, did you?
Yes, I toured on the road just about every winter you went on the road.
Yeah, there wasn't much happening in Branson, I guess.
Yeah. You bet you.
I go to Branson now, and it's, especially in the summer, it's Dolly Parton's barber's son and Mel Tillis's hairdresser's cousin. You know, there's not really any big names in the summer, but they still have a great lineup of shows out there in the fall.
Many shows, yeah.
So, who was your favorite to play in Branson with?
Oh, mercy. I guess Glen Campbell was probably, I really enjoyed Glen Campbell. He was a funny guy, talented. There was nothing that he couldn't play.
Yeah, I heard a story. How about the night he dropped the Ovation guitar? That was a good story.
We had Mel Tillis on that particular show. He come out, and Soji Debucci, which was a famous fiddle player.
That's a good story, too.
Yeah, Mel Tillis, he said, I tried to take this guy fishing, but he eats all the worms. He said, that's why I got to quit.
Only my Mel, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but Glenn, he always played Ovation guitars, and he dropped this particular guitar, the strap broke.
Oops.
And so he ran over real quick, and he grabbed a set of bagpipes. And I mean, this guy could play the bagpipes. And he looked at me, he said, let's do Amazing Grace. So him and I both played Amazing Grace, him on the bagpipes. What a talent.
Oh, Glen Campbell, it was crazy to hear how he ended, but that has happened to so many people.
Oh, yeah, he was marvelous.
If that's happening to anybody that's watching this and anyone you love, our prayers are with you. It is a very difficult situation.
Yeah, and I miss him, and Gentle on My Mind was my favorite Glen Campbell song. Boy, he was so talented at that.
We'll put links to these at the bottom here on the YouTube, too. At the end of this post, we will put the links to these songs. And you've done some pretty good stuff other than that. What else have you been into?
I played the Silver Dollar City and Dog Patch USA. I Gene Shepherd. I played with Gene Shepherd. I had some good stories on old Gene.
Well, there's probably a generation of people that don't really know who that is. So can you give us a little bio about Gene Shepherd and how you got connected with her?
Well, I got connected with her at Branson, and she was married to Hawkshaw Hawkins, and she done shows there in Branson, the Branson area, and I wound up playing steel for her. And Elmer Fudpucker, which is a character that he fronted Jerry Lee Lewis for 5 years, And
Jerry Lee Lewis fans will remember him. I remember him. I learned from you that he played with Jerry Lee. I just remember him from the comedy show.
Oh, he does it. He done comedy on the Opry, and him and I become such good friends. He tried to get me into stuff. He wanted me to go to Korea with him one time. I wouldn't go. But
didn't have any fishing worms to eat.
No, he didn't have no worms to eat. But he would come down to Dog Patch USA during the day, and he sold our show down there, decks of cards, lighted yo-yo, just all kinds of stuff that we could sell in our show during halftime. And these decks of cards had 52 country music stars on them. Well, one night, I was playing with Gene Shepherd, and she was on the bus, and we was all in the dressing room and playing cards. And she come in the dressing room, looking to see what we was up to. She said, well, that's funny. Those cards have country music stars on them. And one of the dummies in our show...
You still haven't told us that was you or not, have you?
No, he wasn't. He said, your picture's on one of these cards. Well, she immediately went into the royalty thing. She wasn't getting royalties off these decks of cards.
How come you're using my picture and I'm not getting paid?
Yeah, and she said, where in the world did you get these cards? Well, one of the guys told on Elmer, said, well, Elmer Fudpucker's the one.
I'd have told Jeannie Shepherd was a pretty impressive figure. She might have hit him with a bat or something if he didn't come clean. You
but
can't tell.
I knew there was going to be trouble. So that night, sure enough, Elmer shows up at the show, and she gets in the microphone, and she can't see because out in the seats so far, it gets dark. So she asked if Elmer Fudpucker was in the house. He stood up and hollered, yeah, Gene, baby, I'm right here. Of course, the spotlight goes right to him. And he thought she's going to ask him to get up and sing a song and do some comedy.
Not about to happen.
No, she told him, she said, you do not leave this theater. I got a bone to pick with you after the show. So when the show was over, I passed the dressing room up. I didn't even change clothes. I got in my car and drove to the house.
Smoke coming off of Gary's tennis shoes on the way. I come back tomorrow and get the steel guitar.
Woo!
Oh, that is great. How many years are you said 27 years?
27 years I was in the Branson area.
Sure, you were a band leader for the Hensons?
I was a music director for Eric Henson and Henson Revival. That was my last year there. We done all the great Henson hits, The Lighthouse, Call Me Gone, just everything the Hensons done.
Links to those in the description here too.
You bet you. And
did you play in the studio much?
Yeah, I recorded in the studio. They would have me come in the studio. I wouldn't know who I was recording for, sometimes. But they during the day of a morning, you could go into the studio. If they wanted me to lay down so many tracks, I would go to the studio and play. And then I recorded an album in Branson with the River Bend Music Show, and we done a lot of great hits.
Now, is that one available on YouTube? Can we get a link to that one, do you think? Or how would folks get a copy of that?
I think they could go on YouTube and they could type in, just like Gary Van Meter or River Bend Music Show, and you'll see a whole list of songs with us, playing those songs. A bunch of white shirts with stars all over them.
Now, would it be okay on the YouTube channel to put pictures of that up there, or do I need to find somebody else for the rights? We can't play the music.
No, I was the music director of that, and
so
I'm giving you permission to do that.
All right, YouTube, when you see this, the man gave me permission to use his likeness.
That's right.
And we'll roll a few of those and let you kind of look and see what the River Bend Music Show looked like.
That's my.
Well, now with YouTube these days, there's a lot of ways to look up the entertainers from the past and a lot, of course, from the current thing. But is there anything else besides the River Bend Music Show we might be able to find with you involved?
On YouTube?
Or anywhere, on social media, online,
Yeah, I've got, I had a friend of mine that done 3 tours in Iraq, and I recorded some Christmas songs for him. and it's just me with a band playing Christmas songs, and there's a couple of like White Christmas, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
These are the ones we've used on the radio.
Yes, we've used these on the radio.
Too. Okay.
You bet you.
Well,
You bet.
I have been around music my entire life, and you just seldom find a steel player that has the background that you do. Ordinarily, they go to work one place and they just stay there, but you treated it as a businessman and kind of...
Yes, I did. You know, in my early days, I started out doing auditions, and you had to beat every steel guitar player that was there in order to get the job. But, you know, once you break into the business and you're around a bunch of musicians that play with different stars, everybody just hangs out, and they'll call you on the phone, hey, Gary, we need you to play with us tonight over here at such and such.
It is a network. And it really is.
Yeah, and I had a lot of good friends. Two of my good friends played with Loretta Lynn, you know, so I was around Loretta and her bunch a lot.
Yeah.
And,
you got any good Loretta stories?
You know, one night I was standing there at the stage curtain, and she come up to me, and
it's Loretta Lynn.
That's Loretta Lynn. And she come up to me, she says, how much do you think I weigh?
I'm going to answer that question.
I want these a vote. Don't ever guess what a woman weighs. It's not a good thing to do. But I looked at her and I said, I don't know, you're a little thing.
There you go.
Of course, big old me, 6'4", you know. She says, I weigh 110 pounds. And I'm telling you, and she was 4'8". People don't realize how small that she was.
Yeah, fishing sinkers in them pockets.
She weighed 110 pounds. But I'm telling you, that lady could go out on the stage and captivate an audience. And one time I walked off of the stage and went out and leaned up against the wall in the theater. And by the time she got to the third song, she had me captivated.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That lady was something else.
You know what I liked about Loretta, and I never met Loretta. I met a lot of entertainers, and, you know, with this show here, I'm actually connecting to a lot more. But I never met Loretta, but my mother went to see her at a local theater that used to be a local venue. Here it was like a theme park called Kentuck Territory. Yeah. And she went to see Loretta at Kentuck Territory, and she had always loved Loretta. They were about the same age, and my mom married when she was 14 years old. They had a lot in common. Loretta sat down and treated her like she was royalty. They became friends. It was just such a blessing that she was such a nice person to my mom.
Loretta truly loved her people. The people that loved her, her audience, she loved you. My mama loved her. I'm telling you, but Loretta Lynn loved you. I mean, she really, and she was a common lady.
Yeah, and so many of the entertainers that I meet, they don't really understand how they got to where they are. You know, I don't think anybody's uncomfortable with it if they've been there any length of time. But invariably, when I do these talks with people, these conversations, they are all just thrilled that they have been able to live the life they've led. Or in Jimmy Buffett's case, he says, I'm so happy that I got to have this job.
Well, he done well.
Yeah, well, we were talking about approaching as a businessman. I saw an interview with Jimmy that I wish I had done. And he was telling someone, I don't remember who it was, but he said, all these people kept coming to my shows dressed in these Hawaiian shirts. And he says, I scratched my head and said, I'm going to start selling shirts with Jimmy Buffett on there. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Oh, and he's made millions.
I don't know what he did last year, but I do know that when the 5 o'clock somewhere, about 12, 13, 14 years ago, when that album that he did with all the country duets, he said that that was the first time he had ever had a legitimate #1 album since Margaritaville.
Yeah.
And he said that ordinarily, you know, we have these fans and everybody buys the album on #1 on Billboard for a week and then that's it. And he said that album was on the charts for several years. Well, all that, then about 5 or 6 years later, I heard another interview. About 5 or 6 years later, I saw online his tour had grossed $36 million for 40 days. Do you realize how good a business venture that is, just being Jimmy Buffett?
Well, you can type it up on the internet and look him up, and I believe his portfolio, he's worth $650 million.
I have
one
no
of the
doubt.
richest stars there is in the world.
And all because he invented parrot heads.
You bet you.
Jimmy's a great guy. I've never met him, but my adopted son, Chili Dog, Michael Paul Castleberry, plays in Key West a lot.
Yeah,
And
I know Mike.
Jimmy has actually come to his shows. And he never knows him by name. He always says, "Hey, I know you. You're that guy that plays on Duval Street, Cowboy Bills, or whatever they're calling it this week." That place has changed hands quite a few times the last couple of years. But anyway, that's Jimmy. You know, he will know who you are even if you don't know he's watching.
Yeah.
And I admire that a lot from somebody of his stature.
I do too. You know, and you know, going back to Bobby G. Rice, he was so good to me. One of the sweetest guys. I like people like that. And, Papa John Huey, you know, he played for Conway Twitty and steel guitar player, and he was another one. Played for Vince Gill, and you go up and ask him a question, he treats you like you was his brother.
Like your best friend, hadn't seen you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the kind of people that I like to be around, not just in music, in life in general.
In general, yeah.
And that's what I like about Gary Van Meter. We're going to wrap this up for now, but if you're willing, we'll do a part 2 and maybe a part 3.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
Well,
Be glad. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm tickled to death to have you. Tell us one more to close up with here, so the folks that have stayed for the whole interview can have a capper. All right.
All right, here we go. This is a good story right here.
All right, I'm all ears.
I'm in the theater, and I'm on stage, and we're playing Apache Klein song. And Rebecca Dawn is halfway across this big stage, and the spotlight's on her, and she's got this red dress and sparkles, you know. And it comes time for my steel ride, and the third string on that steel guitar is only 0.010 of an inch round. And I broke that thing.
Uh-oh.
And it shot all the way across and went through her dress into the cheek of her hind end. She let out a war whoop in that mic.
I did not imagine.
And this spotlight is right on her, and you can see that string dangling out of her butt. Well, naturally, I got tickled, and when I get tickled, I can't play. I mean, I literally could not play the steel guitar.
Did you not play a tune on your head after all this was
man.
over?
I just couldn't get control of myself because you're doing these shows every night.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get control of myself. And I looked at the audience. They was laughing at me. I mean, the whole place was just come unwound. And I literally had to turn around on my stool and put my back to the audience. I couldn't. I was crying. It was so funny. But she still performs over there in Branson. Huge singer, Rebecca Dawn. And she's got that string. She took that string. She took that string to the dressing room, and she rolled it up, and she told me here several years ago she's got that in her jewelry box. She keeps that for her memory.
So if you are in Branson and you get the chance to do a meet and greet with Rebecca Dawn, just tell her you saw Gary Van Meter talking about her on Country Conversations with Cactus Jack on YouTube.
Yeah, or look her up on YouTube. You'll see some videos of her. All right.
I cannot tell you how much fun this has been. We will do it again soon, all right?
Sounds good to me.
Gary Van Meter on the steel guitar. You know him. You love him. And like and subscribe if you like the show. We'll see you soon on Country Conversations with Cactus Jack. Thank you.